So let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little occult chat. Let me make sure that everything is uninterrupted. I don't like anything interrupting me when I'm doing any video. Let's have a little chat. So we had another alleged mass shooting, this time in Buffalo, New York. Then there was one that took place, I believe, in California. So now we're getting ready to start this bullshit again, right? Interesting. You know what I find interesting about this shooting? They made it a purpose to kept, whatever. They made it a purpose to show repeatedly the numbers 11, which breaks down to the number 2, and then went back around and just showed the number 2. I noticed they kept doing that. And see, the number 2 can be a very deceptive number. A lot of people in layman's terms think it means balance and all that, but 2 can also be it can be a distraction, or it can be an illusionary number. Because you can use 2 to make people think that there's you can use 2 to make people think that there's actually only one person in the room. I know that sounds I'm learning. That sounds kind of weird. But get what I'm saying. 2 can be used as a distraction. That energy can be used as a distraction. It's not all about balance. Because once you break down that 11, it turns out it ends up being the number 2. Interesting. When I was looking at the pictures and just looking at the energy of the so-called mass shooting, there were people standing around smirking, smiling, and laughing. And I didn't really see any people in distress. I'm just pointing out what I saw. Not saying that it didn't, not saying that it did, but I'm just saying what I saw as it pertains to the people that were standing around. And then in the story, they kept saying that this happened Thursday. They kept saying that it happened Thursday. In some reports that I read, it said that this shooting took place on Thursday. And that thing, that boy, whatever that thing is, that's what I call that thing, he went to court on Saturday. So why did they say initially that it happened Thursday? Why did they say initially that it took place on Saturday? But then in some reports it says it happened Thursday, but he went to court on Saturday. That wild, savage person. Are we being bamboozled by the number 2? Are we being put up under an illusionary type of energy as black people, using the number 2, using the second dimension, which is illusions and delusions? It's tied into the third and the fourth and the fourth dimension. Are we being disillusioned and being tricked? I'm just asking some questions. I'm just talking. Meanwhile, I'm hearing that there's a lot of sex trafficking going on, particularly in Buffalo. They're kidnapping a lot of girls. And I'm glad, and one more thing, I'm glad that I'm not totally crazy. Glad I'm not totally crazy because somebody said that, and I felt that in my spirit, but somebody said, because I did not actually see the video of him shooting people, but somebody said that he killed mostly women. And I felt that in my spirit, but I didn't say anything. And I'm glad somebody else confirmed it, that he killed mostly women. And then the same person made a very valid point. They said that he claimed that he was only going after black people, but he killed white people as well. But this is supposed to be a racially motivated crime. Well, of course he would kill mostly black people because that was a black area. They say that he scoped that area out first. And before I take the emotional route of, well, he's a racist and he's this and he killed because he didn't like black people, that all may be well fine and true. But as an occultist, as I always say, or I'm going to say, as an occultist and as a spirited person, I'm not a spiritualist, I'm a spirited person. Because that word spiritualist has become a little bit too mainstream. I'm a spirited person and I'm an occultist. When you are a spirited person and you are an occultist, whatever, which ties into each other sometimes, you look at all possibilities. And that is another interpretation of when Jesus said, there are many mansions in my Father's kingdom. He's talking about the many different possibilities within the spirited temple, which the temple is your mind, not your physical body. It's your mind. So what are we really looking at? What are we really looking at? Is my question. You know, let me tell you what's really happening. What's really happening and why these distractions, and people can, and you don't just have to get it from me. People can come to their own realizations or whatever the fuck you want to do. But I came to one. We are no longer in the Garden of Eden. And when I say that we're no longer in the Garden of Eden, see, in the Garden of Eden, you have, your choice of any food you want. There's no negativity. You don't know it. You see no evil. You speak no evil. You know no evil. You're just living under the bass and under the umbrella of complete, naivety to anything, and you are totally and completely unaware of what the real world is capable of. And that is really what the Garden of Eden was all about. Adam and Eve were living in an illusion. They were living in an illusion, like in a lab up under a bubble. If we take that story literally. Okay? They were living in an illusion that no longer existed in the same dimension in which they lived. It was a recreation of something else from another place that is before Common Era, BCE. Okay? Before Common Era, because you can, Adam and Eve, that's before Christ, but Adam and Eve were not the first humans per se. But I'm getting off track. I'm having a little bit of a moment. We are no longer living in the Garden of Eden. And I mean that metaphorically, and people can also say, what is that other word? Metaphorically. Let's just stick with that. We're not living in the Garden of Eden anymore. So, therefore, we've eaten off of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Again, I mean that as an analogy and a metaphor. That's the word I was looking for, an analogy and a metaphor. We know good and evil now. Our minds have become like God's. So, all of this information and all of these things that are happening in the world, we are privy to. We see it. We know it. Because we ate off of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And that's not a bad thing. We've been taught it's a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing. But what's happening is that people that have eaten off of that tree, which has been most of us, some of us can't handle it. And some of us have turned to drugs, alcohol. And I'm not talking about sipping wine and enjoying yourself, or, smoking some weed and, getting your, just having a relaxing moment. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who really indulge. And I don't give a fuck who it offends either. It can offend you and your motherfucking mother. I don't care. I'm talking occultism and spirit. And as a society, we've eaten off of the tree of knowledge. And the problem is, we don't like the information that we found out about this motherfucking real world. We don't like it. So now we want to do yoga, we want to do meditation, we want to do all of these things to forget what we found out. We are no longer in the Garden of Eden. We are in the real world. The Garden of Eden was not designed, I know they ain't going to tell you this in the Bible, but I'm a real motherfucking prophet. The Garden of Eden was not designed, I'm a real seer. You could say that. It was not designed for people to live there forever, darling, or beloveds. It was not designed for that. It was designed to prepare you for the truth. See, they took that out. They made it bad to eat off of the tree of knowledge, the tree of life. The Garden of Eden was designed to prepare you for the real world, to soften you up, to get you all nice and sweet, to get those juices flowing, so you could begin to adjust to the real lesson. Because Adam and Eve were like babies. My interpretation. I don't give a fuck who offends with it, who it offends or not, or who agrees with it or not. You don't have to agree with it. This is my interpretation. I'm an occultist. A cult is an art form, and this is my art form. They were like babies. And when you are a baby, or when you are a child, for a lot of us, some of us may not be so, your life is like the Garden of Eden. When you are a baby, you don't know anything about good and evil and bad, and you don't know anything about that. The only thing you know as a baby is that, listen, I'm here. People keep coming to change my diaper. People feed me milk. Or sometimes if you were breastfed by your mom, my mom is giving me this part of her body, so that I can, get nourishment. Her breast. People play with me. People love me. People are tending to me. That is paradise. That is the Garden of Eden. But as you get a little bit older and you start gaining, it's not about eating literal fruit, The fruit represents the knowledge that you come into once you come out of the Garden of Eden stage of your life. Once you come out of that stage in your life, you've eaten off of the tree of knowledge. And when I ate off of the tree of knowledge, I was like, these motherfucking niggas are crazy. This is all by design. So you can become a god or a titan, and you create your own eternal Garden of Eden, where you don't have to deal with this shit no more. That's the whole thing. So we've eaten off of we've eaten off of the tree of knowledge, whether we know it or not. And I'm not talking about a game, because I know people can be a little interesting. I'm not talking about eating a literal fruit. I'm talking about experience. Experience is the fruit. Experience is the fruit, and life is the tree. And you ain't gonna get that from no motherfucking book. You're gonna only get that from me, Sia Grant, the occult view, or whatever you want to call me. So let's go back to everything that's happening. We have a shooting in Buffalo, New York, and you don't see any of these Black Lives Matter people opening their mouths about it. I go to Tamika Mallory's page. She ain't said a motherfucking thing. I go to Cora Masters Berry's page, Marion Barry's widow, who's Tamika Mallory's unofficial mentor. And Cora Masters Berry is posing all up in pictures with Hillary Clinton, calling her friend. A woman who was accused of not only abusing children, but she's on tape. She's on tape saying basically that black people have no conscience, or black men lack a conscience, and black men are throwaway people. But Cora Masters Berry, the so-called self-proclaimed civil rights activist, is on Facebook calling this woman her friend. And I'm supposed to believe that we're still in the Garden of Eden? No, they're trying to get back to Eden, because those people are weak. They're trying to get back to Eden. They want to get back to Eden by any means necessary. They want to go back, and they don't care whose neck they have to step on. I just find it interesting that all of these so-called Black Lives Matter people, they have not said not one word about that shooting in Buffalo. You ain't heard nothing from Tamika Mallory on her Facebook page. You ain't heard nothing from Cora Masters Berry. Now, Cora Masters Berry is she's not no official Black Lives Matter person, but she aligns herself with that type of energy. Which she really is not a revolutionary type of person. She's a hood booger. She's a hood booger person who fucked Marion Barry behind his wife's back, who was her friend. She pretended to like my friend Christopher. Let's be honest, when she didn't. I used to get so sick every time I saw that bitch. Excuse my language, but I got so sick every time I saw that bitch posting, "Oh, missing him." Bitch didn't care nothing about Christopher. The only thing she cared about was elevating herself in a position that she don't fucking deserve. And all you weak motherfuckers here in D.C., Cora, oh Cora, you're the first lady of D.C. That bitch ain't no motherfucking first lady, no motherfucking D.C. Where, bitch? Where? Nobody knew anything about her. The two best wives he had were Mary Treadwell and Effie Barry. That's it. That's all. And I don't give a fuck who gets offended. I don't give a fuck if it hurts you. I don't give a fuck if it causes you to have a goddamn stroke. I said it and I ain't taking it back. We are no longer in the Garden of Eden. Grow up. That bitch don't give no more two fucks about DC or black people than that boy that went up in that store in Buffalo and murdered those people, allegedly. Stop playing with me, man. Stop playing with me. Stop playing with me. Why should we have to keep accepting hood boogers like a Cora? She was forced on us. And then she took away from the boule energy, and now she's trying to recreate it like she's boule and classy. There's nothing classy about her. She's a fake, phony, and she's fraud, and there is no alleging in that. I mean that. Really, it has nothing to do with how she treated Christopher, because I didn't know Christopher then. But it has more to do with the fact that she is part of the energy of the number two, which is illusion. We are not in the Garden of Eden anymore. But she's sitting up with Hillary Clinton. She's sitting up with Hillary Clinton, a woman who has been accused of racism, a woman who's been accused of being involved in pedophilia and pedophilic acts. And you expect me to believe that this bitch Cora Masters Berry has the black community's best interest at heart? No, because we're up under the illusion of the number two. You know, balance. Ain't no motherfucking balance. That's illusion. Balance. She wasn't even married to, she was married to him, but she wasn't even with Marion Barry at the time of his death. And then when he died, she comes in like the bereaved wife. See, I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't know any of this until Christopher started confiding in me and telling me what the real deal was. He was like, "Seer, that shit you be seeing on TV is some bullshit." He was like, "I don't fuck with that lady like that," basically. And then he dies and she all about, "I'm missing him." You ain't missing him. You probably was mad because you couldn't fuck him. That's probably why she was mad. Because she couldn't fuck him because Chris was good looking. No, bitch, that was my friend. That was my lover. Okay? That was my lover, not yours. I know I'm going all over the place, but this is spirited. This is what you call spirited. Because it ties into everything that's happening. It connects to everything that's happening. The fake, the frauds, the agendas, the rituals they're doing behind the scenes. And she's part of it on a lower level, on a second dimension level. We're no longer in the Garden of Eden. We have eaten off of the tree of knowledge, and some people can handle it and others cannot. Now I'm done with that. You know what, on a side note, black men, y'all funny as a motherfucker. And I'm talking about the black men that I know. Y'all funny as a motherfucker. Now that my life has changed for the better, and now that I have a husband, and now that I have someone that I'm with, all of these black men are now trying to get with me. I find that to be very interesting, because when I was single and when I was available to do some freaky deaky motherfucking shit, you niggas you were playing games, you were being flaky, you were lying. Now you lonely motherfuckers are trying to get with me now. I find that to be very interesting. They have become very aggressive in trying to get with me. They've been very, bullying in a sense, but you can't bully me. So, but they try to, but it doesn't work. I just find that interesting. That now all of a sudden that my life has changed, now you niggas are trying to get with me. I don't want you. See, I told you niggas this was going to happen. So let me tell y'all what's happening. Let me tell you what's really happening. You see, all of them black men that was messing with all them damn white people and white women and shit like that. See, now they're no longer in the Garden of Eden. They've eaten off of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And now they realize, SpaghettiOs. They realize this is not where it's at. I made a mistake. They've eaten off of the tree of knowledge. And they realize they're no longer in Eden. And now they're lonely because they've spent a large part of their lives, adult lives, fucking over people, being nasty and hateful to other black people, including some of these Negroes here on YouTube who call themselves this and that. They have spent the better part of their lives harming and tearing down other black people. And now they woke up and they're no longer in the Garden of Eden. And now they're lonely. Well, nigga, get the fuck away from me because I'm not lonely. And it's not because I have somebody. I've never been a lonely person. I've always enjoyed my own company. Always. Always. Just wanted to throw that out there too. Now, I normally don't give reviews on housewife shows and stuff anymore, but I want to address something. I was watching the Real Housewives of Atlanta, and this new season, it's okay. I mean, it's not its best, but it's reasonably entertaining enough to keep me interested a little bit. And now they have this beef with Sheree, and I believe her name is Drew Sidora. Never heard of her. But here's my thing. What I don't understand about Drew Sidora is this. Why are you mad at Sheree? I know Sheree can be messy and, and whatever the case may be. But Sheree is my motherfucking girl. So maybe this is a little biased. But why are you mad at Sheree, but you're not mad at that messy queen, that Anthony person? Why aren't you mad at that thing? Because he was the one going around telling people that your husband was allegedly gay. And I'm going to be honest with you. I thought the same thing. The man has 2 earrings in his ear. He has very effeminate, I didn't say feminine, he has very effeminate ways. Okay? I thought the same thing. Allegedly. Maybe Anthony is telling the truth. But my issue is that you're getting mad at another woman, But you're not taking issue, whether it's true or not, you're not taking issue with this messy queen who is being two-faced in between you and Sheree. But you're choosing to get mad at Sheree when she was not the one who started the rumor. She was not the one who started the rumor. Same thing with Sheree. Why are you getting mad at Drew when that boy, that messy queen, that thing was the one who came to Drew and started talking about you and how you don't like to pay your bills? Which I believe, even though I like Sheree, but the truth is the fucking truth. Why are you getting mad at Drew? Why y'all mad at each other? No, what you should do, both of you need to get together and read that queen for filth. You need to read his ass for filth and tell him to stay in his motherfucking lane. Especially you, Drew. Especially Drew. But that's right. Nobody wants to leave the Garden of Eden. Everybody wants to stay in the Garden of Eden and get along with everybody. Nobody wants to leave the Garden of Eden. Because the real person who's at the center or the epic center of this is that messy queen. And Drew, let me tell you, girl, look, let me just say this. Drew, that girl got some problems. I ain't talking to her personally. But Drew, that girl got some problems. That girl, Drew, she got some problems in her marriage. You can tell that her husband got some serious issues. Serious ones. The man wears 2 earrings in both of his ears. Okay? I don't care who gets offended, but that's usually a telltale sign. I don't even date men that have earrings in their ear. I don't date men that have earrings in their ear. I don't wear earrings. So why would I date somebody that wears earrings? Unless I'm trying to get me some pussy. Unless I'm trying to get me some pussy. And I like a little bit of puss every now and then. That ain't gonna hurt you shit. That ain't gonna hurt you. It's good for you. How could you? But see, I'm honest about my sexual orientation. I'm not running around lying. You know what I mean? I'm not lying. But her husband, I can look at him and tell he has a lot of secrets. I'm not saying he's gay, but I have to say that, you know that movie Jeepers Creeper? Remember that movie Jeepers Creeper? Well, I'm like the creeper. I'm just like the creeper. My gaydar is very good. And you know how the creeper, when he would get close to somebody, if that person had something in their DNA that he wanted, his eyes started going in the back of his head and that thing started pulsating. That's how I am when it comes to men who are gay or bi and they're trying to hide it. I know. I know. I know. I know, I can see. And that's one of the reasons why I probably didn't really last over there in that conscious sector for too long, because they were afraid I was going to pick up on something. You know what I mean? Because remember, we're not living under the protective bubble of the Garden of Eden anymore. Anything goes. And you know, truthfully, I actually like Drew. I think Drew is going to be the new Portia, because she kind of reminds me of Portia. She's the new Portia, but a much more nicer and a much more stable version of Portia. She's the new Portia. She's the new young girl on the block. Sanya, Sanya's boring. They could have kept Cynthia on there if that's the case, because Sanya's a Pisces like Cynthia. They should have just kept Cynthia, but I think Cynthia wanted to leave. Bring Cynthia back and get rid of Sanya. That's just my opinion on that. But anyway, that's all I really have to say. I just wanted to point out a few things that's going on and just say that we're no longer living in the Garden of Eden. We're not. We're living in the real world. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.